You know the rule of thirds, you know leading lines, you know the golden ratio, without trying very hard. And still, somewhere out there in the field in front of the scene that stopped you cold, the photograph you brought home did not stop anyone else. The gap between what moved you and what your camera actually recorded has almost nothing to do with the rules you already know. It has to do with something most photographers never learn at all, and today we're going to close that gap. I've been teaching composition for a long time, in classrooms and in galleries, and standing next to the tripod in the field. And lately, I keep noticing the same pattern online. Video after video promising the one rule, the one trick, the one habit that will transform your composition overnight. Some of that content is genuinely useful. Most of it stops at the surface. And I want to be clear about something before we go further. The rules of composition work. Rule of thirds, leading lines, framing, symmetry. Painters worked this out centuries before cameras ever existed, and photographers borrowed it because it works. So this is not a video telling you to throw away the rules. This is a video about what happens after you already know them. Because I sit down with a lot of portfolios, beginners, serious amateurs, photographers building a real body of work, and almost every time the pattern repeats itself. A handful of images carry real weight. The rest sit quietly in a folder technically correct and about as memorable as a parking receipt. If that sounds familiar, sit with something uncomfortable for a moment. Following the rules more precisely will not fix this. You could master every rule for composition that exists, apply each one with total accuracy, and still produce a portfolio nobody remembers past the first 3 seconds. Something else is missing, and it's not talent. Here's the assumption I want to challenge directly. You believe the answer is one more rule, one more technique, one more workshop, one more list of 10 things every landscape photographer must know. The answer is not another rule. The answer is understanding how a human eye actually behaves in front of a frame, because right now, most of your compositions are built for an eye that doesn't exist. And here's what I mean. Your eye is not a lens capturing an entire scene in even sharp focus. Only a small area at the very center of your vision resolves in real sharpness at any given moment. Everything around that point is soft, approximate, filled in by memory and assumption rather than actual sight. And your eye does not glide smoothly across the scene either. It jumps. Quick, involuntary jumps from point to point, resting for a fraction of a second on each one before moving on again. This is how human vision is built. And it means every photograph you make will be scanned the same way. Jump, rest, jump, rest. By an eye that can only hold one small area in real clarity at one time. Try this for yourself. Hold up a finger at arm's length and focus on the tip. Notice the room around you soften and blur. And it's not your imagination. This is foveal vision, working exactly the way it's designed to work, whether you're aware of it or not. You have stood at the edge of the lake at first light. The mountains, the reflection, mist lifting off the water, a heron working the shallows on the far side, all of it moved you at once. So you packed all of it into a frame, and the photograph came home cluttered, competent, correctly exposed, rule of thirds respected, and somehow still flat. And it's not a failure of vision. That was a failure to account for how vision actually works. You've done this. We all have. And here's the part that matters most. This is not a one-time mistake. It repeats itself across the entire portfolio, year after year, without a photographer even knowing why. 3 strong images surrounded by 40 that never quite land. Not because 40 lack talent behind them, because none of them accounted for the one small area of clarity the viewer actually has to work with. Once you understand that the eye can only hold one point of real clarity at a time, composition stops being about where you place the subject on a grid. It becomes about deciding deliberately where the first jump lands and what happens after it. 3 questions replace the grid. Where does the eye land first? What happens on the second jump? And what is competing for that landing spot that has no business being there? That bright patch of sky in the corner, that fence post on the edge of the frame, that extra rock that adds nothing to the story. Every one of those is a competitor for a landing spot that you never authorized. Clear them out, in camera or in your processing, and the eye goes exactly where you intended, every time. Let me give you 4 tools that put this into practice immediately, because theory without practice is just another rule collected and never used. Contrast is the first tool, and it's the fastest one. The eye doesn't jump towards the loudest area of the frame. It jumps towards the area with the greatest difference. A dark subject against a light background, a sharp edge against a soft blur, a single warm tone surrounded by cool ones. Contrast is not a filter you apply after the fact. It's a decision you make before you press the shutter, because it tells the eye exactly where the first jump belongs. Leading lines are the second tool, and photographers already know the name without understanding the mechanism. A line in the frame doesn't decorate the composition. It directs the jump. The eye follows the line the way it follows a finger pointing across a room, and it keeps following that line until it ends, bends, or disappears. Place that ending point where you want the first rest to happen, and the line has done its job before the viewer even realizes they were led there. Negative space is the third tool, and it's the one beginners resist the most, because empty space feels like wasted space, and it's not. Negative space is the pause between jumps. It's the rest the eye needs before it moves on again. A frame with no negative space forces the eye to jump constantly, landing nowhere, resting nowhere, exhausting before it even settles on what matters. Give the eye room to breathe, and it will reward you by staying longer on the one thing you want it to see. Depth is the fourth tool. A foreground element, a middle distance, and a background. Give the eye a path instead of a single flat plane. The jump moves through the frame instead of across it. Layer a branch in the foreground, a lake in the middle distance, and a mountain on the horizon, and you've built a hallway for the eye to walk down, one rest at a time. And the fifth is a smaller tool worth naming, odd numbers. 3 rocks instead of 2, 5 birds instead of 4. An even number gives the eye a pair, and a pair resolves too quickly, too neatly with nowhere left to rest. An odd number leaves one element unresolved, and the eye keeps returning to settle something that was never meant to settle. None of these tools are new rules to memorize. They are the same rule applied 4 different ways. Control the jump, control the rest. Everything else is decoration. This works the same way on a tabletop as it does on a mountainside. The same eye, the same jump, the same rest. Still life photography has no scenery behind it, which makes this principle even harder to ignore and even more rewarding once you master it. Move one element 3 inches and watch how the hierarchy of the frame changes. That's not decoration, it's engineering. Rules of composition are the base layer. They are the exposure you get right before anything else happens. But a strong photograph is built the same way a strong print is built, in layers. Format is a layer. Horizontal reads calm. Vertical reads as urgent, more direct. That choice happens before you press the shutter, and it changes the emotional register of the image before a single rule of composition even applies. Light is a layer. Direction, quality, color temperature. They all shape how the eye moves and how long it stays once it lands. A color carries its own layer, its own psychology. A cool blue cast reads as quiet and distant. A warm amber cast reads as intimate and alive. Same composition, same rules followed to the letter. A completely different feeling depending on the layer underneath. None of this replaces the rules of composition. It sits on top of them, underneath them, and around them. That's the difference between a photograph that is nice and a photograph that's remembered. Before you assume this is about upgrading your gear, it's not. A wider lens won't fix composition built for the wrong eye. Neither will a sharper one. This is not a hardware problem. Here's what I actually want you to take from today. You don't need one more rule collected like a badge on your sleeve. You need permission to trust what you're already seeing, once you understand how attention actually moves through a frame. This permission changes everything. It's the difference between a photographer who's technically correct and a photographer whose work people stop and stand in front of. You don't need a better camera to get there. You don't need a rare location or perfect weather either. You need to understand the one small area of clarity your viewer will actually give you and build every frame around it. The rules got you this far. Understanding your viewer's eye and your own will take you the rest of the way. If you want to go deeper into the fundamentals behind every decision I've just described, my ebook, Photography Essentials, an in-depth guide, walks you through it from the ground up. You'll find the link in the description. And on that point about color, that work happens in the edit, not in the camera bag. I process every file I own in DxO Photolab for the local adjustments that shape the blue and amber casts I described. If you want to try it, the code SteveAustin gets you 15% off, and the link is in the description as well. Thank you for spending the time with me today. Subscribe if this served you. Like the video if it changed how you see a frame. And I'll see you in the next one. The light doesn't wait, and neither should we.